Hello and welcome to the Wine Educate podcast, where we explore WSET education, study tips, and practical advice for wine enthusiasts and professionals. This is episode 13, where we're tasting New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc using the WSET SAT from levels 1 to 3. So if you are just listening to this, it's your first time listening to the Wine Educate podcast, I'm going to need you to go back to episodes 11 and 12, at least those two, where I explain in more detail what the SAT is and how to use Blick. In episode 12, we took a mysterious made-up red wine, our 2000 Right Bank Bordeaux, through the SAT, and I described in greater detail all the how the way it grows from 1, 2, and 3, how things get added on, and how your note should look. So that was fun. We did a red wine, but I think I wanted to do white wine as well. Slight differences with the white wine, and also this is going to have a different outcome at the end, so it's going to be good exercise for us to go through. So I decided to use a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And more specifically, I am using the 2023 Three Brooms from Marlborough. You do not have to rush out and find this exact wine. The reason I'm using a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough in the first place is that it is an extraordinarily testable wine. So what do I mean about a testable wine? It's going to have characteristics that make it a quintessential example for study and tasting practice. It's going to be pretty consistently high acid and a few other components as well. And the aromas and flavors are going to be all in the same wheelhouse. So this is a good wine to practice on. It's in the world of wines, I think I mentioned this before, only about 20% of them are really kind of in the testable category. So the testable ones are good ones to practice on. Okay? So if you have your wine, go ahead and do your note now. Get that out of the way. So this will be kind of like reviewing your note. Okay, so let's start. At the level 1, we are looking at appearance, and it is a white wine. On the nose, we are noticing aromas, maybe some herbaceous qualities, some citrus. I just want you to kind of get a ballpark of what's happening on the nose. On the palate, it is dry with high acidity. That is no joke. This wine consistently is a great example of a wine with high acidity. So if you're struggling with that, go on, taste it. And if your eyes start to water a bit and you make that face and your mouth is drooling like crazy, high acidity. All right, so big difference between tasting a white wine and a red wine. We do not talk about tannin when it comes to white wine. So we don't mention it. We don't say low tannin or no tannin. We just don't talk about it. Just leave it off, okay? Alcohol, this is a medium alcohol wine, and it's 13%. Well, mine is anyway. Light body. And again, mention those flavors you get, similar to what's on the nose, those herbaceous and citrus flavors. So sometimes when I get a wine and I may be struggling to identify some aromas and flavors, I play the game, what do we not have? Okay? And that helps me narrow things down, or at least get into a good frame of mind of eliminating certain things. So what am I not getting? I'm not getting any oak. I'm not getting any other secondary characteristics, which would be mallow or lees. I'm certainly not getting any signs of age, no tertiary as well. And you know what? That's fine. That is okay. Do not panic if you get a wine and all you get is primary and you're going, oh, I don't see the tertiary. Where's the secondary? that's fine. This wine could, in all probability, just have primary, and that is fine. Okay? All right, moving on to the level 2 SAT tasting note. On the appearance, we are adding intensity, and I'm saying that it is pale lemon. Okay. For my past students, I just heard an auditory groan from you all. I know this is a tricky one, and this is where I remind you all again, no matter where you are, please calibrate your palate with your instructor, okay? Because especially when it comes to some of these nuances on the appearance, on the color, defer to them. My pale lemon is pretty dang pale, okay? It's so pale that one of my students made me a sticker called Pale Lemon, and it almost looked white. Okay, yes, I get the joke. But calibrate with your instructor. On the nose, pronounced intensity. On level 1, we said herbaceous and citrus. That needs to be more specific for level 2. So let's break it up. Herbaceous. Okay, that's a cluster. Don't write that. Write the specific things. Grass, asparagus, green bell pepper. Same thing for citrus. Maybe write lemon, grapefruit, and there's some other things happening too. I got whetstone, green apple, green pear, maybe some floral, as in maybe white blossom. On the palate, dry, high acidity, medium alcohol, light body, and pronounced flavors of those that I mentioned above on the nose. Do not forget to write them on the palate as well. And a medium finish. In conclusion, we are doing Blick. So it is balanced. It does not have length. We said medium finish. It does have intensity and identifiable. So that's a yes, a tick for that guy. It is not complex. It does have many interesting things, but not enough to make it a complex wine. Often, if a wine only shows primary, it is not going to be complex. There are exceptions to this. As a general rule, though, it will not be complex if it's just showing primary. So it got 2 out of 4, makes it good. All right, level 3. Appearance, clear, pale lemon, pronounced intensity on the nose of things that fall under the herbaceous category. That's grass, asparagus, green bell pepper. That's citrus, which is lemon and grapefruit. Some other things, whetstone, green apple, green pear, blossom, and some possible other things as well. I don't necessarily pick these up in my New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, but these can certainly show up in some other ones. So some tropical fruits, mango, melon, passion fruit, some stone fruits like peach, and 2 other things that I'm going to go into in greater detail. Gooseberry. You were wondering when I was going to say gooseberry, right? And cat's pee. Okay, first we'll talk about cat's pee because many of you just sort of raised an eyebrow at that one. All right. Cat's pee is a common descriptor for New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And believe it or not, it is not considered a negative thing. Okay. I'm not going to try to fight this. I know that smelling cat's pee is not a terribly pleasant thing. So I'm not going to try to tell you need to enjoy the aroma of cat's pee. I'm telling you that it shows up in this wine. Okay, let's try to reframe it in a different way. So it's more like an ammoniated smell. And the reason it works and it's not such a horrible thing is that there's so many other intense smells, aromas, and flavors happening in this wine that it really all balances out. Okay? I'm just going to leave that right there. But let's go and talk about gooseberry because this is a really fun thing to talk about. I'm here in New Orleans, right? I'm in North America. I did grow up in England, and my nana lived in Stockton-on-Tees. Shout out to all my Northern England people. And she had a gooseberry bush in her backyard. So as a little kid, I would wander out there. She'd say, go pick the gooseberries. And they sort of look like grapes, but they're almost more translucent, like a very light translucent green. And it's not something you really want to eat just right off the gooseberry bush. Believe me, I've done that. They are really high in acidity. Think of a mix between sour grapes, underripe kiwi, and lemon zest. Yeah. Is your mouth watering yet? Yeah. We used to make it into jam, a gooseberry jam, or all sorts of crumbles and pies and things like that. These are the European gooseberries, okay? These are Ribes uva crispa. There you go, got a little Latin going on there. These are not the ones that show up in Trader Joe's, okay? And my students will send me DMs and emails and whatnot, and I can't count the amount of times that my students have said, taken a picture of the gooseberries at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, or got so excited they bought them and brought them into class, but they're not the gooseberry that the WSET is really referring to on their SAT card. These are the Cape gooseberries. They're like orange. I'm not even going to attempt the Latin on this one. They're also called golden berries or ground cherries. And they do have some tart acidity, but they're overall less herbaceous. So they're fun to get. And, by all means, this is not going to stop you guys from taking pictures of them at Trader Joe's and texting it to me or bringing them into class, which, it's always fun. But they're not the translucent green ones of which WSET is referring. Okay? And to sum it up, some cheeky Kiwi made a wine, a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and called it Cat's Pee on a Gooseberry Bush. I can't confirm that this wine is still in circulation. I don't know, but kudos to them for making quite a memorable and descriptive title for their wine. All right, after all that, I didn't mention any tertiary on the nose, so we are saying that this is youthful. On the palate, here we go. Dry, high acidity. We do not mention tannin. Medium alcohol, light body, with pronounced flavors of the things that I mentioned on the nose. Finish. For level 2, I said the finish was medium. Here, I'm going to adjust it on that scale and say medium minus for finish. Okay, it's a little on the shorter side. So medium minus. In conclusions, we already did Blick and we deemed the wine to be good. So what about its level of readiness for drinking? All right, if you get a wine and it comes out as acceptable or good on Blick, I think you could reliably say that you should drink it now and it's not suitable for aging or further aging. Also, this doesn't mean that this wine is bad. There's many wines out there that end up being good on Blick and drink now that are just delicious. Think Beaujolais, okay? All right, so we did it. Our white wine. Thank you for listening. Let me know if you like these episodes where I go through the wine, or if there's a different style of episode you would like me to do. Believe me, the level 3 information is coming. I just gonna want to be really thorough on some other level 2 things before I crack into level 3. Okay? So if you would be so kind as to share this episode with your fellow WSET student or wine-loving friend, I would gratefully appreciate. Oh, I said gratefully. Oh, that was an accident, but it was kind of amazing. I would appreciate that. All right, friends. See you next week. Have a wonderful week.